All right. So the recording is in progress. Thank you all for joining us today on the first day of spring. We're talking about the redevelopment project at 1416 Clinton Street in the North End. On with us tonight, we have Bruce Stevie from Marchetto, Higgins, and Stevie, who's going to present the details of the redevelopment project. We also have Councilman Phil Cohen, Councilman Michael Russo, Councilwoman Emily Jabor, here as well as panelists. Also from the Department of Community Development, I have Supervising Planner Jessica Giorgiani and Principal Planner Casey Wolf. So with that, before we let Bruce run through his excellent presentation, I'm gonna let Councilman Councilman Russo, have the floor to give some introductory comments. Councilman?
Thanks, Director. I just wanted to thank everybody for being on the call tonight. I'm not going to take up too much time, but I'm really looking forward to having this meeting tonight, and hopefully we'll get some good input. So I'll kick it right back to you, Director, so we could start the presentation and get on with the show, as they say.
Of course. Thank you, Councilman. And I should have stated, Councilman Russo is the chair of the Community Development North Subcommittee. So all of the redevelopment projects that are discussed before as they're coming to fruition, goes through the North Subcommittee. We have a North Subcommittee and a South. So with that, Bruce, would you like to start?
Sure, thank you very much. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I think I'm going to start by sharing my screen. There we go.
Should be able to.
Yep, it's just took a second.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm going to increase the size of the panel so I can see everybody. Excellent. So good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce Stevie. I'm a principal in the firm of MHS Architecture. We've called Hoboken home for the past 45 years. We have two offices in Hoboken. We have one on 13th and Willow, and the other one is located on the 5th floor of 1422 Grand Street, which is directly across the street from this project. We're proud to call this our neighborhood. And we're very excited to see all of the work that's happening in this area of town right now, as the city is endeavoring to improve the stormwater system, the electrical infrastructure, and the street grid. So every day I get to watch all of that development happening outside our building. As Chris Brown mentioned, the project is located in the North End redevelopment plan. The site that we're currently presenting is in the infill development district. It's known as Site 10 in the redevelopment plan. This is a blow up of 15th Street, and you can see the site is located. 15th Street is at the top. It's located between Clinton and Grand Street. And then there's the Artisan Lofts located to the south of us, and the viaduct. This is an aerial view, a little bit older aerial view of the site. You can see there is a bus storage facility on the site right now. There has been an office building that was constructed at the corner of 15th and Grand, and the existing warehouse structure that is on the site opposite has been demolished since this photograph was taken. This is an overall site plan, and this site plan shows some of the anticipated development and some of the approved development that's happening in the area. There are two projects that were already approved at the planning board. That is 1500 Clinton Street and 1500 Grand Street. As I mentioned, the site is Site 10, which is just south of 1500 Clinton Street approval. And as I also said, our offices are located in the building that's on this side here. This is an image of the project that was approved at 1500 Clinton Street. This project was approved at the planning board in April of 2024. And as you all may recall, this project introduced the widening of 15th Street with a pedestrian promenade on the south side of the block. And then there's a through block park, a pedestrian park that's centered almost mid-block with a smaller residential building fronting 15th Street and a taller residential building to the north of 15th Street. And then this is the project that was approved, 1500 Grand Street. Again, this received planning board approval in August of 2024. And again, you can see that this continues the development of the pedestrian promenade along 15th Street and the pedestrian park through the mid block. And it's important to note that these projects or are compliant with the redevelopment plan and provide for activity and retail and business uses along the 15th Street frontage. This is a site photograph looking at the site that we're going to be speaking about tonight. Again, you can see the office building at the corner of Grand and 15th Street that's under construction in this photograph. But you can see right now that this building that is currently on the site was used to store buses. And right now, I don't think it's the highest and best use of that property. This is again a shot from the corner of 15th and Grand Street. You can see the office building. That office building has been completed now. And then this is a photograph from the corner of 15th and Clinton Street. And you can see the Gravity Vault rock climbing gym on the left side of the page. You can see the artisan lofts in the background. And this foreground portion of the project is where the proposed building will be. This is a rendered view of the proposed project. This is from the corner of 15th and Clinton. It's as part of the infill development district. It's important that this building was designed to work with the context buildings. Many of the new buildings in this district have been designed with a modern loft style aesthetic. And so the building that we're proposing tonight follows that vernacular. And I'll go through that a little bit as I continue my presentation. But one thing to note, when we were working through the design of the project, we looked at the building lines along 15th Street. And you can see that there's a strategic step back that was placed in the building at the 4th floor that lines up with the step back in the office building that's now complete to the west of us. It's also important to note that one of the goals of the redevelopment plan is to provide active street frontage and active uses on 15th Street. And the project that we're proposing tonight proposes to do a retail frontage along the entire front and wrapping around Clinton Street. And we think that that will help bring people and pedestrian activity to this street. And with that combined with the future light rail stop at the end of 15th Street, I think is going to create quite a wonderful neighborhood. As everybody knows, we work with the flood controls here in Hoboken. This building's been designed to meet all the DEP requirements and the Hoboken flood regulations. The current elevation of the sidewalks in this location are about elevation 6. And we're going to be elevating the residential lobby of this building up to elevation 14. That's about an 8-foot difference between sidewalk and building lobby. And you can see this just quickly identifies areas that can be wet flood proofed and dry flood proofed, with the orange tone being the dry flood proof zones and the blue being the wet flood proof zones. This is a ground floor plan. This shows the conditions of the building at grade at the sidewalk level. So you can see in this image, the retail has been focused at the corner of Clinton and 15th Street. It's quite a good frontage of retail. There is a retail piece of ground floor that faces onto Grand Street. There's some service areas, and access to the lower level of parking for the building on this floor. In addition, on this floor, we have an off-street loading area where trucks will be able to pull into the building, provide move-in services and trash collection. We also have bike storage in the garage level of this project. Another thing that we'll be working on, and we'll talk about this in a second, is part of this project. There are some improvements that are being proposed to enhance the pedestrian priority streetscape along Clinton Street. And I'll talk about that with my next slide. Another thing I mentioned is we'll be bringing the pedestrians from grade, which is about 6 up to 14 in the lobby. In order to do that, we need quite an extensive ramp. And one of the things that unique feature of this proposal is that we're pulling the ramp behind the building line. So it's actually in like an arcade that comes along Clinton Street so that it doesn't reduce or impede on the sidewalk at all. It's tucked under the building. It brings you up to a landing level, and I'll show you that in a couple of minutes. As I mentioned, we are working with the city professionals, and we're working with a landscape architect on concept improvements for Clinton Street. And this is a progress image of some of the things that are being contemplated. And none of this has been finalized yet, but it's something that we're working towards. And we're working, you'll see that what we're proposing to do are to create a raised crosswalk and roadbed at the intersection of 15th and Clinton. What that does is it's traffic calming device. It slows people down as they enter onto and exit from Clinton Street. We're also proposing to do curb bump outs at the intersection as well. And what that does is it reduces the crosswalk length, and again, is a traffic calming device. Those bump outs will be landscaped, so there'll be a landscape buffer at the edge of those. So again, that's going to be another thing that's going to slow people down as they come into this intersection. And Clinton Street is really meant to be a pedestrian street along this frontage. It connects into the underpass under the viaduct, and it's really anticipated to be pedestrian friendly. So as part of that, we're also proposing the opportunity to perhaps do some catenary lighting. Those are light fixtures that are hung from wires that cross the street. We're also proposing mid-block to maybe propose light poles with string lights that cross the street. And then we're proposing a series of decorative cobblestone pavers that create an area at the edge of the street where light fixtures, street trees, excuse me, street furniture like bike racks and benches all would occur at the edges of the street frontage. I mentioned light poles with string lights, and so this is just an example of what that could look like. This is a different town that has done something similar to that. So you'll see that they have light posts that come up, and then string lights that go across the street. So again, I think it creates a sort of a festive pedestrian space along Clinton Street. This is the lobby level plan. As I said before, residents will come up a ramp or a short run of stairs to an intermediate level. Once they hit that level, they'll come into the building and then proceed up another additional 2 feet to get to the elevation 14, which is required for the Hoboken flood controls. The lobby elevation has to be above DFE. At this lobby level, we have access to elevators. We have a mail and package room. This is just a close-up view of the rendering that I showed you earlier, but it just shows you how, again, we anticipate activating the street frontage with retail. This also shows how that pedestrian ramp that accesses the handicap access ramp to the upper lobby level is tucked in behind the building, almost in an arcade-like structure coming down the block. This is just the upper parking level. This is tucked in behind the lobby. Because the lobby has to come up so far out of grade, so high above the grade, we end up with some tall ceilings on the first floor. We're able to tuck the 2 floors of parking behind those tall ceilings. And we actually have the ability to put in some smaller mezzanine areas for a possible mezzanine area for retail. So there could be a second level behind that retail space, a smaller area for amenities, and the opportunity to create some unique units on this side of the building that duplex up to the upper floors. And we think that's a really cool idea because it'll take what could be a 2-story utility area and turn it into an active use on Grand Street. This is a second floor plan. It's the residential floor, and this basically shows how we have a double loaded core building around a courtyard. There's an amenity room that opens out onto the courtyard, so residents will have access to the outdoor space in the center of the block. The total number of units proposed for the project is 160 units. 10% of those units will be affordable. The unit mix that's being contemplated at this time is 8 studios, about 73 1-bedrooms, 19 1-bedroom dens, 51 2-bedrooms, and there are 4 2-bedroom loft building units. And those are those units that I mentioned on this side of the building that duplex down. And then there are 5 3-bedroom units. I mentioned that we have 10% affordable, so that would be 16 affordable units. 4 of those are studios, 8 are 2-bedrooms, 4 are 3-bedrooms, and those units will be broadcast throughout the building. This is just a typical upper floor plan, and I showed this one. This one's the 5th floor plan. I showed that so that you can see where that building step back, the first building step back, occurs along 15th Street. And as I mentioned when I showed you the rendering, that's in alignment with the neighboring building that's been completed. And then this is the top floor plan, and this top floor plan shows the second step back in the project, and that is at the top floor. That's set back 7 feet from all the street-facing facades. We were proposing a robust amenity package on the roof of the building. There'll be a 2,900 square foot amenity room. Oops, sorry about that. Go back one. That amenity room is located pushed back, set back quite a distance from the street facades. That will lead up to an outdoor amenity deck that's elevated above the roof. It's elevated above the roof so it can be at the same elevation as the pool that'll be located on the roof. As a result of the amenity package and the mechanical requirements on the roof, we end up with 40% of the roof area that's left to become green roof. I also wanted to mention that we've concentrated to the greatest extent possible all of the mechanical equipment into 2 areas that are centralized on the roof away from the edge of the building. And those will be screened with a decorative architectural screening system so that the mechanical equipment is hidden. These are just some images that kind of show why we like to put these amenity packages up on the roof. In Hoboken, we're blessed with some of the most amazing views of one of the most amazing cities. And this project is set perfectly for that kind of to take advantage of those kinds of things, looking out across the harbor, the inlet. And we'd up on the roof, we're proposing to have a pool area, some outdoor eating areas, and some lounge areas up on that roof. The building section, and basically what this shows is that the building we're proposing is an 8-story building that's 99 feet above DFE, plus the additional amenity penthouse or amenity roof roof space. Sorry, keep hitting the wrong button, but the amenity roof space located on the roof of the building. We have the step backs identified on here. And this really shows again how once we get to the residential lobby elevation with a lobby area, that ground floor ends up getting quite tall. And so that's why we want to introduce those mezzanine levels that can benefit the retail and the residential amenities. This is a building elevation. It just, this is a technical drawing that shows the floor-to-floor dimensions and the basic materials, but we really like to show the building like this. This is a rendering looking down 15th Street. In the rendering, you can see in the foreground the gravity vault building that's existing. And then to the right of the screen, you can see we've inserted the approved project on 1500 Clinton and 1500 Grand Street. We've got the completed office building in here, and we have the linear park that leads down to the 15th Street light rail station. And this, I find this image very compelling and exciting because I think it starts to show the vision that the city had when they were thinking about the North End plan with the retail uses, with the wide pedestrian activity areas. And I think this really starts to show how wonderful that space could be. I also wanted to showcase in this image one of the requirements of the redevelopment plan, and something that we worked with the Office of Community Development on was the corner, the treatment of the corner of the building with this glassy bay window type corner. I think that it elevates the project. It provides a point of interest. So when people are coming into Hoboken, driving past this gateway, it'll be an iconic corner that will be visible from 15th Street and Willow Avenue as you come into town. This is the Clinton Street elevation. Again, I put this in because I like it shows clearly how we're going to transition people up to the lobby entrance area and using that ramp tucked in behind the columns of the building. And then this is a rendering that shows the corner of Grand and 15th Street. And while this building, I showed you, it was in plan, it was kind of a C-shaped building around a courtyard. With the introduction of the office building on the corner, it begins to feel like more than just one building. It feels like a building that's separated into two buildings. But there's active retail frontages along 15th Street. That retail continues down into facade along, excuse me, the facade along Grand Street. And then what we've done at the service areas is we've treated them in a very similar manner to the retail frontage. So it feels like this is an active street front the entire way. And then, as I also mentioned, we've duplexed down the units from the upper floor so that there's residential units on this mezzanine level of that retail space. So there'll be a lot of action and a lot of activity, eyes on the street on Grand Street as well. So that pretty much concludes my presentation of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'd be happy to show any of the other renderings if you'd like to see them again.
Thank you, Bruce. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Really appreciated that your presentation and visuals. Before we get into questions, Jess, do you have the so Jessica Giorgiani is going to go over compliance points with the North End plan and how this plan complies and deviates in certain aspects.
Yep.
You need me to stop sharing or?
Am I sharing? Can you see?
Not yet. I still see Bruce's screen. There we go. Yeah,
I can see it now.
You can see
it in
it?
slideshow. Yep.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so yeah, thanks, Bruce. That was a great presentation. We're just gonna I'm gonna kind of take the lead here and just describing what amendments from the North End redevelopment plan there are and how this project complies and in areas where it does not to the North End redevelopment plan. And as Bruce had said, we're looking here at site 10 in the North End redevelopment plan. I know this image shows a lot. It's just a screenshot from the plan showing the various sites, which are all numbered like 1 through 12, I think, or 13. And this is site 10 here. You can see that it's actually part of site 10 in the plan. The little red rectangle here is the office building that's under construction right now and not part of this site. And I just want to note that everything you see in blue, these little blue labels here, 5A, 5B, 4A, 4B, those are the projects that have already received approvals and have had amendments completed for the North End redevelopment plan. And this is the next site. So as Bruce had said, this project is 160 units with 10% affordable, 16 units. So that does comply with the requirement of the plan. Just to go over some of the bulk and height deviations that the project is going to need. The plan requires a 12% open space in this district. This is the transitional, what do we call this district? The
Thanks to the infill development district.
the infill development district. And the infill development district requires certain parameters, 12% open space. In this area, the buildings really on the block are not designed with open space. They're pretty much built out to the property lines. This one has a little bit of open space, given that the corner of the building is chamfered. No setbacks are required here, except there is a 30% rear yard requirement in the plan. And this, again, this deviates from that. The required height of for the redevelopment plan is 80 feet above design flood elevation in the incentive or the bonus condition. And this project has a height really from DFE to the top of the last residential floor is 99 feet. But with the amenity space on the roof, that brings the height up to 118. And they do require like a little 1 foot amendment from the first floor, because as Bruce had said, they are doing 2 levels of parking under that kind of that first floor. So they'll need a 1 foot deviation there. They do meet most of the step backs for mid and top level, except the mid-level step back from Clinton and Grand. The project does propose more development, more residential square footage than is permitted by the North End plan. The max residential permits, well, the plan permits a max FAR of 3.1, and they're proposing 4.45, and requires a minimum non-residential of 1.15, and they're proposing 0.283. When you combine these, they're looking at 4.73 FAR, where the plan permits 4.25. So these would be amendments. The North End plan, also beyond just establishing, bulk and height, also has a number of other requirements meant to provide more community benefits and community amenities, public amenities. And one of the main ones that is in the plan is the development of the Clinton Street Promenade, also known as the Clinton Street Woonwurf. As Bruce had shown, that is going to be developed out partially by the project to the north that Bijou and Advance are working on at 1500 Clinton. And we are asking the developer to continue a kind of improved or pedestrianized street aesthetic on this portion of Clinton Street, 14th to 15th Street as well. The plan requires, you know, beautifying corner spaces and using a chamfered, it's called in an architectural term. It's really just when you know, put a building on an angle at the corner, really cut the corner off. So you're creating more of an open space at the corner, and they're doing that pretty gracefully. The plan requires, you know, really some public amenities and streetscaping on 15th Street to really make it a 15th Street corridor. And I think Steve showed you how that is going to all come alive with these projects. They'll also be required to implement Vision Zero strategies and public art for the redevelopment plan. And I just threw this image in here. It's a street view image of where 14th Street meets Clinton Street, and just how this is really a ripe area to continue this pedestrianized aesthetic up Clinton Street. You've got the tunnel that takes you under the viaduct to, you know, you come out around Trader Joe's over there. And then you also have this section of 14th Street, which if you keep going here in this picture, you'll bump up into Willow, and along at Willow and 14th, they're doing another project where cars are not going to be permitted over here anymore, and it will be very pedestrianized. So this really continues that aesthetic up until the north portion of the Clinton Street, Wooner, north of 15th Street. So we're kind of just filling a gap here with this project. Onto parking requirements. The North End redevelopment plan requires a 0.5 ratio, which is 0.5 parking spaces, or 1/2 a parking space for every unit you have. They're required to provide like 82 spaces when you combine the residential and the retail requirement, and they're providing in the realm of 68 to 72 spaces, which is a 0.43 ratio. The redevelopment plan does allow the city to reduce parking ratios, though, if they're providing other transportation demand management strategies. And they have submitted a TDM plan, which is being reviewed by our traffic experts, MBI, and then will ultimately be reviewed by the planning board as well. They're complying with the bike parking, one bike parking space indoor for every one unit, and then we'll be providing outdoor bike racks, bike parking as well. They'll also be providing 2 car share spaces, I believe, which would be great. So residents don't need a car. That's a great TDM strategy, because you can rent a car share space right in your building. The redevelopment plan requires, it doesn't require that they, you know, build to get a LEED accreditation, but the plan requires that they build to a design as if they were going to get an accreditation. So they build to that standard without having to submit all the paperwork and stuff to go through the process of getting accredited. And we require that they submit a LEED Silver checklist to demonstrate how they're achieving each of the points to get to a LEED Silver standard. They are currently requesting an amendment to provide 40% green roof coverage, where the plan requires 50%. And Bruce showed you how the design of the rooftop will have, you know, a substantial amount of green roof, an outdoor amenity deck, mechanicals, and they're, you know, balancing all of that. So that's to be finalized at some point soon here. Other requirements, they'll have to provide stormwater on site that detains an amount that exceeds New Jersey DEP stormwater requirements, just like everywhere in the North End. They'll have to meet the city's flood code, and they'll be required to make sure that their sidewalks and the streets are at the elevations the city requires to accommodate the North Hudson Sewage Authority high-level storm sewer that's to be installed like momentarily. I think that's it.
Thanks, Jess. That was a really comprehensive overview of how they comply and deviate from the redevelopment plan, and other details that would be spelled out in the redevelopment agreement. One thing just to add on or to point out, the building height from sidewalk to rooftop to roof to the top of the highest residential floor matches across the street 1500 grand project at the Poggi Press site. The 118 feet is including the amenity deck. So it's an 8-story it's an 8-story building. We don't count the amenity deck slash elevator bulkhead as a story as defined by our zoning code. Our zoning code defines a story as residential or commercial occupancy. So just a small little caveat or detail. But thank you. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Jess. So now we will take questions from the public. Oh, I see Councilman Cohen, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do.
All
Thank
right.
you, Director. Mr. Stevie, I want to thank you for the presentation and the thought that went into that. I also want to thank the Community Development Department for working with you on this. I think you described the one view as an iconic view with the curved facade on the corner, and I think it's a wonderful. You're going to pull it up. I mean, I really like that image a lot. I think it's very inviting look, and it's a stark contrast to what you see looking at 15th Street right now. And I think it's a realization of a lot of people, my council colleagues, the Mayor Bala, for what this neighborhood could be. And I think this is exciting. Just had a few questions. One, I noticed that I believe that there was 160 bike parking spots. I think we saw an image of a room that had a bike room. I thought it was on the mezzanine level, or maybe it was the first floor. Looked like there were only like 95 spots there. I was wondering where the other bikes
yeah,
are going to go.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen, and again, I do believe that this view is the culmination of a lot of hard work by a lot of different people in the city, and so again, I find it very exciting. With regard to the bicycle parking, we actually have 2 bicycle storage rooms inside the building, one on the ground level and one in the second floor parking garage level. So
Okay.
there'll be overflow storage.
Can you just show that?
Sure, I can. Yeah. So we have on this, which is the upper parking level, there's a bike storage room here. They'll be able to get their bikes and either go into the elevator to go down or come down the ramp for the parking garage. And then in the ground floor level, if you just give me 1 second, we have a larger bike storage room down here, and they can come directly out through the loading area or out through this hallway that leads right to the sidewalk.
Okay, and outdoor bike parking?
Yes. So again, I mentioned that we're looking at this the improvements to Clinton Street, and so outdoor bike parking will be located in bike racks that are in this zone. It's a cobblestone paver to kind of recall the pavers of the streets that were in this area, and so that in that band we'll have bike parking. We'll have street trees, we'll have benches, so that'll all be occurring, and it goes down and extends to the retail area in front of 15th Street as well.
Yep. One question / critique I have is that I think that, and I'm okay with the variations from the plan, except for one that I have a little bit of concern with. It strikes me that we are clearly in a flood zone here, and clearly you've made a lot of provisions for the elevation of the lobby and everything to be at 14 feet in order to be compliant. You've got wet and dry flood proofing in place, which is all great. But I saw that the green roof was only 40% coverage where 50% was required. And I was wondering if there could be any consideration to maybe reducing some of the amenities on the roof to allow, or maybe reposition them to pick up a little additional space of to extend the green roof coverage so that it's compliant.
So I know that Chris mentioned it. This is an ongoing discussion that we're having with his group and the developers.
Great minds think alike.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
He hadn't mentioned that to me, but that's something that strikes me as something that it does not seem like should be a large hill to climb to get to be compliant on that. And again, it is because, I mean, yes, we are completing rebuild by design, and we are doing this area, getting this area additional flood protections, but this seems like a fairly basic way to remove extra wastewater or sewage water, rainwater from the
Yep.
system.
Yep. And I know not everybody gets to see these rooftop terraces on some of the projects that are being built throughout town. And I would encourage anybody, if they ever have the opportunity to get up on those roofs and experience it. As urban designers and as architects who design projects in this area, for us, it's like everybody's backyard, you know. And to be able to get up there to see the views of Manhattan that you have from Hoboken, it's wonderful. And so what we try to do always, and I hear what you're saying, but we always try to balance that. We always try to balance the ability to get people outside, get them to experience these amazing things that they have, at the same time as providing you know, these green infrastructure components. So we'll continue to look into this.
Yeah, I would just say, just to close the loop on this, that it's not going to be a public area. It's going to be for the benefit of the residents, which is fine. There are other amenity areas in the building in addition to the roof, I think on the second floor. So I guess I would just say, you know, this is an important community aspect for a space that otherwise is not available to the community.
Yeah.
That's the only point.
Can I ask a question also on that note about the, you know, making this the most sustainable project we can, given especially the amount of building coverage? Is what about placing some green infrastructure in the right of way, in the bump outs that you're doing on 15th Street or on Clinton Street? Is there opportunity for right of way green infrastructure, bioswales?
Again, I think those are all great suggestions, and we'll go back and talk with our client and continue to work with your group on that.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, we're still discussing the terms of the redevelopment agreement, so this is one of the points that's still open. So, you know, Councilman Cohen, I appreciate you bringing that up. And Bruce, we appreciate you taking our concerns into consideration.
That's all I have. Thanks very much, Director. Thank you, Bruce. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the public? I see Thane Wren. Thane, I'm going to allow you to talk. Thane, you have the proverbial mic.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Hi, thanks for this presentation. I'm a resident at 1404 Grand. So right in the neighborhood. I walk by this lot every day, almost, and have been looking forward to seeing what was planned for this lot for a long time, and this looks great. So excited to see this. I just had sort of two more comments than questions, I think. I mean, the first one is, you know, I think this illustrates how we should be flexible on some of these height restrictions in the plan, because I think this is a great example of a building that's going to revitalize this area. It's very much in keeping with the general area. You look at, you know, a little bit south, you've got buildings like Park and Garden and the Hudson T buildings that are even taller. So if anything, you know, this lot is big enough to sustain an even taller project. So I think, you know, I fully support this, and I would think even more flexibility on creating more space would be totally great. The one comment I have that is a concern is for the office building that just came in that they're still finishing at 15th and Grand, the sidewalk is just a little too narrow. And I don't know if there's been any thought given to widening the sidewalk, but especially with some of the planters that are on that sidewalk, I think the clearance is like 3 feet, like even like a double wide stroller would have trouble getting through there. And I'm hoping that's something that will be addressed both with respect to that building and this building, maybe narrowing the street a little bit so we can get a little more sidewalk space. I don't know if that's something that is on people's radar, but I was a little surprised to see with the new sidewalk creation on that new building that's already there, that the just space to walk by is not as wide as I think it could be.
Are you talking about the 15th Street or Grand?
The building across from the Pilsner House, the new office building that's
So on 15th Street or so that's a corner building that
yeah,
has two
it's sorry,
frontages.
on 15th Street is where there's a clearance concern. I think the sidewalk on the Grand Street side is fine, but on 15th Street they put in like some planters, and the space between the planters and the building at certain places along there is like really quite narrow. My kids are out of strollers now, so it's less of a concern for me, but it's like the big stroller we used to have, I don't even know if we could have gotten it through there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it needs to be at least 5 feet.
So Bruce, I'm not looking at the site plan right now because if I open up another file, my computer will likely crash. So remind me, are you or is this project, what is this project doing for the streetscape on 15th? Are you providing new curbing on 15th? A new streetscape? Or are you matching the sidewalk? Just existing.
I think we're matching the existing sidewalk. But we do not have planters or anything like that in front of the building. And we actually recessed our entry doors into the retail back a little bit from the face of the building.
Okay. And what's your sidewalk? What's the sidewalk width in front of your building?
The clear zone.
I don't have it dimensioned. I can look that up while we're talking.
Sure. No, that's an excellent question. Thank you. Do you have any other questions or comments?
No, like I said, this looks great. I agree with what Phil said about the view from that, like sort of walking up from Willow. I get off the 126 bus all the time. I walk up that street to go to my apartment, and am looking forward to seeing this building, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thank you. And I'm seeing that I think, and I know Bruce is still pulling it up. I'm looking at the street view of the new office building. I think it's 1417 Grand, and they have a pretty wide planter. I think that's a shade tree. That's a shade tree approved planter, and then there's sidewalk, and then the building. So you're right. It does look like kind of a narrowish space, probably from curb to building. It's probably about 10 feet, 10 feet. But then with the planter, yeah, with the planting bed, it cuts into the width. But but the building is matching the street wall. It's not recessed or pushed back, so it just matches that building line. Bruce, were you able to find the dimension?
The sidewalks along 15th Street currently are 12 feet.
12 feet, and then what's the clearance from planter bed?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a survey of that property. I only have the survey of our property.
Got it. No,
But
well,
you're
I mean,
proposing
for
street
your
trees along 15th Street. So I guess from the edge of the street tree planting to the building, do you know what your clearance is?
It will be a minimum of 9 feet.
So that's obviously fine, but for whatever reason, that building that came in there, it's just really actually quite tight. Like if two adults are walking side by side, it feels like tight.
So that was a zoning board project. So we can't really we can't speak to the approvals or design considerations on that building. It's two different tracks. There's the local redevelopment and housing law, local housing redevelopment law, and the municipal land use law. So that went through the municipal land use law This is going through the LRHL, Local Redevelopment Housing Law. So it's just two different
might-
processes and
We might
environments.
just be able to ask Mario to just make sure that like it meets ADA standards and, you know, for sidewalk width, because they could always remove the, change the planter. Like before they get their COs, they could change that planter design.
I mean, if a stroller can't fit through that sidewalk, that sounds like something Mario should take a look at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a look. Thanks for bringing that up, Thane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thane.
All right, does anyone else have a, oh, I see Manny. Hold on, I'm gonna. All right, and Manny, I'm going to allow you to talk. Manuel Rivera Soler, you have the proverbial mic. Manny?
He's on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, hello, good evening, Director Brown. A few questions. Again, I have questions in regards to what you were just mentioning right now. I'm just trying to make sure I get my chain of thought correctly. The prior speaker was speaking of the sidewalk and the reasoning, the planning board, and I guess another iteration of this plan, because I remember I was at the first one, regarding the safety of pedestrians in that corner and the reasoning behind the trees or the plants, plant boxes and such was for safety in regards to the pedestrian plus the persons who were going to avail themselves of the whatever was going to be there, whether it was a restaurant, a coffee shop, whatever that may be sitting in the sidewalk. So that sidewalk is obviously, if the plan comes through to the end, is going to be a busy corner. Not only for pedestrians, it's going to be obviously we know for vehicles. So that's I'm stating a fact more than a question right now, but if you can clarify before you make your final decision, which by the way, I thought the final decision was made, but can you make sure that members of the public could understand the reasoning behind the trees and, you know, because maybe other members of the public weren't privy to the planning board meeting.
Wait, Manny, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Are you talking about the trees in front of 1417 Grand or the trees in front of the proposed build project that we're talking about tonight?
No, the proposed project, because if I didn't hear you, if I heard incorrectly, please correct that you're planning to move them is what I just heard. No?
No. So the proposed site is a bus depot. So it's a vacant bus depot. I don't even think that I don't know that there's any street trees there now. What they're doing is they're going to propose street trees along Clinton and 15th Street. So it's on the corner of, it wraps around Clinton and 15th. So there's going to be a brand new streetscape there. And what Bruce Stevie was just mentioning was that there's going to be a 12-foot sidewalk and the tree pits are going to be 3 feet. So then there will be a 9-foot clear. Is that right, Steve? Is that right, Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, that's the proposal. So this hasn't gone to any boards. There's no approvals to talk through. There's no, it's just, this is the proposal. Does that make
Not even in
sense?
the state tree committee. I'm a little confused. I think I'm thinking of the other project than the one in front of it now.
Probably, yeah. You're probably thinking of another project. At some point, this will have to be, Bruce's drawings will all have to be reviewed at the Shade Tree Commission. The Shade Tree Commission, when they go to planning board, they'll ask for the Shade Tree Commission's input. The Shade Tree Commission will provide their input and guidance, and then they will go on with their hearing. But that's not where we are now. They're months and months away from being able to go through those hoops at the board.
Yeah, therein lays the conundrum. There's so many projects happening at the same time, but yet so many take months and months and months. Sort of what, bringing it back to the council meeting from last night, where members of the public think or assume that something is going to be done within a month, and it's not even close. It's 3 years down the pike, and information gets lost. Is nothing that you've done wrong, Mr. Director, or anyone. I'm just saying that lends itself to confusion, as you just see how I made it, because I'm seeing the picture for the 14th Street, and I don't know what we were talking about here.
Yeah, well,
And
that's why we're here to talk
but
things through.
and I appreciate the council member who is advocating for more green roof, which I try sometimes and fail as a lowly little person asking a question. But again, Mr. Director, I appreciate as much more information as you can give again to everyone. Thank you for the presentation. And again, I also want to put a shout out, if I can, even though this is not what we're doing. But if it wouldn't have been because of Uptown Hoboken group or Facebook group, I really would not have known of this meeting, because I never got a next. So again, not directed against you. It's just that we have to be a little more proactive with the information, again, so that people don't get, like me, confused of what project we're talking about. So again, thank you, Mr. Director, for the meeting, and everyone again for the presentation, and everyone who's attending.
Thank you, Manny. Appreciate your comments as always. All right, are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Going once, going twice. Bonus. All right. All right. Well, Bruce, you have done it. You've done an excellent job. Thank you for once again providing excellent architectural renderings for another project in the North End. Jess, Casey, thank you both for your hard work with getting us to the point of a redevelopment agreement. Councilman Cohen, Councilman Russo, thank you for your guidance as council members through this process, and for being present tonight. Councilwoman Jabor was also here, but signed off a little bit ago. So
Thank you,
with that,
everyone.
thanks
Thank you.
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Have a great
All right,
rest
you
of
have
the
a
night.
good night.
Good
Happy
night.
first day of
See you,
spring.
Michael.
All right.
You too.